قد ذهبت أربابه كل من سار على الدرب وصل في ازدياد العلم إرغام العدا وجمال العلم إصلاح العمل جمل المنطق بالنحو فمن يحرم الإعراب بالنطق التبل انظم الشعر ولازم مذهبي في اطراح الرفض لا تبغي النحل.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Viewers of Ibn Battu's Boat, we're back here for the episode 10. Alhamdulillah, we have made it to 10 episodes so far for Ibn Battu's Boat. Make dua that we continue to go on for longer and we have many more beneficial episodes. Ibn Battu's Boat is a podcast that is aimed towards the young British Muslim youth that are possibly having discussions on many different topics at work, at uni, at school, at college, topics that can be to do with identity, that can be to do with business, with politics, with religious affairs. And we want to kind of bring all of those discussions down here onto the sofa, bring guests who are, academics, are imams, are businessmen and women, and they're able. These are the people that really know how to discuss these topics to a very high standard and high level, so we can get as much sort of information from them about these topics that you guys might be thinking about and discussing, and inshallah that can benefit you and allow you to draw out some lessons from it. Today we had a brother, Khuram Malik, who is a business strategist, an author, a podcaster. He has many different skills that will come out when you sort of see him speaking on the episode. We got him down today to talk about a number of things, including his book here, $1 Billion Muslim. So Asim, if you want to take it away with Khuram Malik and what we discussed.
Yeah, so mashallah, tabarakallah, it was an incredible episode. The first of our entrepreneurial series that we have with IBB. And so to start that off, we went straight into the deep end with his background and early life, how he interacted with the outside world and business at the age of only 14 years of age, when many of us were just still on MSN and still messaging people. He was out there trying to make business and tried to make ends meet, and then he kind of progresses from his his career as graduating and then starting his own business with his uncle or something like that, then working as now to where he's an author, a strategist, a behavioural strategist, a vlogger, someone who helps businesses, helps people and mentors and coaches them. All these various things that he's doing as an entrepreneurial endeavour, we discussed his background and stuff like that. Then we move on to some serious topics that are affecting our youth, some serious questions and very personal discussions as well. At the same time, me and Traib were the witnesses of that. We talked about the concept of debt, the idea of enslavement in society, and the qualification trap, where a lot of us feel that there are a lot of economic struggles that young Muslims are facing, and these economic struggles are actually so bad that they're not even being addressed. Yeah. The sad thing is as well, they're not being addressed. And so we discussed various issues around student debt, the idea of house price inflation and how it's so ridiculously high. You can't even think about setting a family up with the kind of mortgages they have to put in. That's if you want to take a mortgage, but majority of us choose to live on rent. Yeah. And we talked about the family pressures towards conventional careers. We talk about all these different aspects, and it's constant, intense discussion, mashallah, tabarakallah, on some of these discussions that I feel I cannot find anywhere else on the internet. Yeah. Definitely. I genuinely can't. And with the guest speaker that we have today, and his acumen and his his experiences, it helped give a lot of certainty, and there was a lot of tawheed as well. Yeah. Within this entrepreneurial discussion, there was so much aspects of tawheed, mushahada, muraqaba, the constant need to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your business affairs and to put your trust in Allah in these business affairs. And we talked about long-term solutions in the Muslim community, not just locally in the UK, but also globally as well, internationally. How entrepreneurship is going to be a global solution for a lot of the Muslims, and we briefly talked upon Baraka economics, the concept of having Baraka in your decisions. Economics is, in terms of the definition, it's the study of rational choice and analysing rational choice, and the concept of Baraka is very intertwined with that. So we haven't really tapped into that. So that we're going to discuss that as well. And that's something that comes later on in the podcast. And then we finish on a very emotional, a very powerful vision on. We discuss vision for in terms of how the author himself, the guest speaker himself, how he views the world should be, and what he thinks is moving on to the next best thing. And then we talk about just a utopic vision in of itself, what we should go back to, our values. And he mentioned the concept of the economy of Medina, the Medinan values that we had and how it was constructed. So all of these discussions, mashallah, may Allah bless our guest speaker, and may Allah bless everyone involved, Al-Huda themselves as well. If you mentioned Al-Huda already, or
no? So please, do make sure that you are checking out Al-Huda. They are the sponsors and the main supporters of Ibn Battuta's podcast. They have allowed us to use this studio and continuously support us in putting out this podcast. So do check them out on social media, on YouTube, on Facebook. They are a channel that are targeted towards the youth and that are trying to instill tarbiyah, instill knowledge of Islam into the youth. And they have many different programs that are, alhamdulillah, very, very beneficial. So please do check them out. As well as that, our social medias, Ibn Battuta's Boat, on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and on our website, ibnbattutasboat.com, so you can keep up with the episodes, you can keep up with some of the side discussions and some of the different kind of projects that we're inshallah going to start expanding through Ibn Battuta's Boat. And also don't forget that we have this book here, $1 Billion Muslim by Khuram Malik, that you can find on Amazon as well to buy, inshallah.
Okay, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Nice to meet you, Khuram. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu wa rahmatullah.
You can assalam him this time.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Okay, welcome back for episode 10 of Ibn Battuta's Boat with Shuaib co-hosting today and myself, Asim, and we've got a guest speaker today, a very interesting guest speaker, and I don't want to give out too much information just yet, but I want to talk about Ibn Battuta's Boat first, as it's really important to understand why we're having such a guest speaker today and what kind of discussions we're going to have from that. We are a discussion-based da'wah initiative that aims to be an intellectual hub for creative thinking to help young Muslims, young professionals, graduate students, young Muslims generally speaking, find their footsteps in the vastness of this world. It took me, I did that off the top of the book. Yesterday I was thinking about how can I summarize this podcast and this vision, and I just thought I'd come up with that.
That's a good one. I like it.
Generally, the overwhelmingness of this world and the chaos of it all often leaves us wanting change. And this can be from within, it can be from society itself. Sometimes you look at issues in the world and you try to come up with creative solutions for that, but it's not mainstream, it's not something widely accepted, and it's something that often is looked down upon initially. So this is why we're here. We're a platform for those discussions, and we want a society empowered by divine values. We want a society empowered by justice and tolerance. We want our listeners to be bold Muslims who care about the world and the affairs of the world, to improve it bit by bit using our faith as the fuel for our actions. So I just thought I would say that first as our episode 10. This is our 10th episode, alhamdulillah. So that's some sort of milestone. I guess when we sat down initially to create this podcast, we didn't envisage it to be so blessed by episode 10, to have a studio, to have Al-Huda television supporting us, but it was something that I thought would be important to mention at the start of the episode. So today with us we have a guest speaker who is an author, who is a strategist, a behavioural strategist.
Business and behavioural strategist, yes.
Yep. I'd say an entrepreneur, a mentor.
You could say that, I suppose.
Somebody who doesn't like uni very much.
No.
He doesn't like university, but is a computer science grad. And he started business when he was 16. Actually, you interacted with the outside world at the age of 14, hiding behind an email account that was actually his father's. So we're going to discuss that a bit as well. But he came across business at a very early age.
Yes.
And actually, before we get into that, can we have a quick icebreaker?
Yeah.
So generally speaking, before the guest speakers, the listeners, before they get to know you a bit more and your background, but could you give us something that's like an interesting experience you've had during your journey within entrepreneurship and business, something inspiring?
There's so many, but because I'm guessing you want something that's kind of quote-unquote religious or spiritual, last year I spoke to a scholar from Texas. So I think it was about 11:30 a.m. his time when I was speaking to him. It was about 4 p.m. my time, UK time. And basically what happened was, for the issue for me was really basic, but for him it was a really big deal. For me it was quite basic. And so somebody asked me to help him, says, okay, I'll help you. And this scholar, there was, I don't know how you explain it, but there was 28 links between him and Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He was a teacher of, he was a teacher of Tajweed.
Okay, yes,
He was one of very few people in the world. I think he was one of 22 or something like that. But he had very few chains. And so I helped him with the issue. They all got resolved and everything. And he goes, I'm happy to pay you. And believe it or not, I was in a really desperate financial state. I have these, you know, as an entrepreneur, you have fat periods, lean periods, all this kind of stuff. And it was very tempting to ask him to pay me. But I said, no, it's okay. I'll just take a dua as payment. So he said, okay, I'm going to the masjid right now for dhuhr. I'll be there in about 15 minutes. So that would have been, I can't remember what time it was, my time. I think it would have been about 4:45.
Right.
And he goes, I'm going to pray dhuhr and I'll make dua for you. And he goes, look, I've just got a feeling, because my dua always gets answered, and I've just got a feeling it'll get answered very quickly, trust me. And I honestly thought, okay, whatever. Right, it's a bit, you know.
This is just kind of talk.
Exactly. So it would have been about 4:45-ish my time when he would make the dua, right? Something like that. No word of a lie, 4:50, I get somebody called me. There's a client I've been chasing for a year. They just keep ignoring me. They call me. They don't even call me. They just text me on Skype. And they go, we want to sign up for a consulting deal with you. And I'd offered them a consulting deal that was at a particular package. And they went, no, we want a higher package than that. They signed up for 18 months. It was the biggest deal I've ever won.
Oh my gosh.
So what was the time frame between?
That would have been less than 4 minutes after he made the dua.
Oh my gosh.
Less than 4 minutes. And I was sat on my chair, I literally fell off my chair into frustration and started crying.
Subhanallah.
And I wasn't crying because I won this contract. I was crying because of the majesty of Allah Ta'ala, that how swiftly Allah can operate.
Wow, God.
It was, and everything turned around then within 2 days for me. Everything turned around.
That's amazing. And the fact that you said to yourself, okay, do you know what? I need this money now, but I'm just gonna sacrifice this. This opportunity. Probably because you know that you just helped somebody that is obviously in a is a scholar, is somebody that we should respect in our community. So you thought, okay, let me just give it to him on the house and stuff like that. And Allah saw that as like obviously a good deed that you've done in your life, so He rewarded you so quickly.
Could it also be that he wanted to pay but he didn't have the funds, so you could see that in him, that he still had the
I could tell that
sincerity too.
I could tell that he wanted to pay, but he definitely didn't. He was struggling for money.
Okay.
So he was being taken advantage of, which is why he brought me in, because there was a lot of people. It's quite sick how in the Muslim community you see some of the worst business stories you see in the Muslim community.
It's true.
You either see them when you go really big in the Western world.
Yeah.
You have to go up to the central banks, and then you see what's happening there. But in the everyday micro,
necessarily doesn't happen that much, except in the Muslim world. Yeah.
Especially in places like East London and.
Unfortunately, I've been on the backhand of this. I've seen
and
as well.
it's out of control.
Because you see them in the masjid as well.
And the big beards.
You immediately take them for some sort of piety.
And it's not just brothers as well; it's sisters as well. They just made that clear. It's not just men. It's women as well, and it's.
Do you think some of it comes from because they try and use kind of the religious stance?
The thing that I've come to learn recently is that there's Sheikh Darqawi. You can go and look him up, but he says multiple times he wrote a series of letters to his students, and he's got 2 or 3 themes that keep coming up. One of them is let Allah take care of things for you. You can take care of something yourself, or you can let Allah Ta'ala take care of it. And when He takes care of it, it's going to be much better than when you do it. That's a theme that keeps coming up. There's a couple of other themes. There's the theme about don't be a slave to your nafs, and learn not to feed it and starve your nafs and stuff. But the third theme that keeps coming up is the people that are outwardly religious, right? That are inwardly twisted and perverted.
Right.
And he means that in figurative and literal ways.
Wow.
You can find people that are perverted in terms of figuratively, that their thoughts and ideas are perverse, like in terms of justice and all this, or it can be perverse as in actually perverse.
Subhanallah.
You know, and he means both of them, and it's really incredible that you know, you could say that I was kind of in the dark I was in business and stuff for a very long time, and I did get to see a lot of things, but I would say a lot of my business spiritual lessons have all been in the last. I've been married now 7 years. I would say they've mostly been in the last, literally since I got married. I don't know what it was about me getting married. All my lessons have been in the last 7 years, and they've been very compressed. So I kind of was just asleep for like 10, 15 years, you could say. Not really learning, not sensing, just going through the motions. And in that, I've had very compressed, acute experiences.
Do you think you only realised that you've been asleep in a way once you kind of had those acute experiences?
Yeah, I would say I've been asleep. I realised that I've been asleep probably only in the last year or two. Because now I recall back to when I was much younger and think, oh wow, I wasn't noticing any of this. And it makes you realise that, wait a minute, there are so many things that I could have done very differently as well. You know.
SubhanAllah.
Well, I don't know what else to say. That was quite a lot. That was quite actually, one question I actually want to ask you is that, in terms of your experiences before you were married, in terms of business, why would you consider it yourself to be asleep during that time?
I think it was because I didn't have outside perspective. So when I got married, I mean, I'd been in a business for about 8 years. This was a business that I'd gotten into after I've been in business with my dad. And I'd been in this business for 8 years, and it had actually been failing for 8 years. It was just mostly just coasting, breaking even, failing. And my health was deteriorating because I was working really hard. It was very, very stressful. It was a really, really stressful business. And I think my parents had tried telling me, this business isn't working for you. I'd had a couple of extended family members that had tried telling me it's not working, you should just call it quits. And I think I was under a spell, so to speak, with my business partner that, you know, business is about working really hard, it's about watering yourself and all this. I don't mean...
So you were sold by that aspect?
Yeah, and it's not that he was a magician. I'm not accusing him of being a magician or anything like that. You just get into a spell of some sort.
The way the words are, the way that he's conveying the business practice and stuff.
I think when my wife came along, I think it wasn't until a year, because I got married in 2011.
Right.
I think she's a very patient, graceful person. She spent a year not saying anything, right? And then a year after, she would just kind of whisper little things and say, but what about this? Or, And I think it was just that little whisper.
This little different perspectives.
And I knew it was coming from a place of sincerity. Because you get to, when you get to a certain age, you get a certain distrust for that previous generation.
Right.
Parents, extended family, aunties, all this. You do develop a certain distrust, I think. And it's subconscious. And I think, so I wasn't really taking it very seriously when they were saying it. And friends... It's a strange thing with friends. Sometimes friends say something and you take it very seriously. Sometimes you just ignore it completely. So I don't know. And she just kind of managed to get in and whisper. And
so would you say, sorry to interject, would you say that sincerity is a really important aspect?
And it was sincere, but it was also balanced as well. So it was a very balanced, but this
sense of realism, or
I think it was just a very balanced view. And it just made me think. And then this train just went off. And she was the one that actually told me to write the book. And at the time she told me to write it, I actually said no. I said, no, I don't want to. I'm not the person to write this. I don't want to write it. And I thought it was really bizarre. But she planted the seed, which then kind of sprouted a year later. So maybe 2 years later.
Interesting.
It's very interesting to see how, you know, I mean, something that actually me and Austin were talking about on the way to the podcast, that, you know, that there's so much more baraka in what you do once you're actually married, in the sense that you'd think that you'd have, you know, logically you have less time. When you look at it from at the outside, you actually have less time because you have to dedicate more time to your wife, or if you have kids, to kids and etc. But the time that you do spend doing particular things, it feels like you can get so much more benefit out of them than if you had all the time in the world and not being married and still doing the same things.
I used to feel certain things. I used to feel that this is what I think is the right thing, but I had no you could say evidence or so.
Sidekick.
I didn't have something to prove. No, I didn't have something to prove what I was feeling.
Right.
So I always felt like if I was married, I'd have more baraka in what I do. But I couldn't prove that.
Of course, yeah.
Right? So it wasn't until I started discovering certain things and I started to realize. And I remember I met this entrepreneur, and he was working really hard. And he was like, I just want to make as much money as I can before I get married, so that when I get married, and I used to think to myself, but why not get married and then make that money at the same time? That'd be so much better. I couldn't persuade him of it. But I mean, I was really struggling to get married anyway. So I couldn't prove it. So.
I mean, in terms of your early life and background, because it kind of like leads to that. Would you say that I was reading your book over there, Building a Muslim. I still haven't completed it yet. But there is so much that I've already gained in terms of the stories that you've mentioned, the case studies that you've mentioned, even the case study about yourself. Essentially, the book is about yourself as well, isn't it? So, like you mentioned, that at one point you were 14 years of age, and the emails was very. It was very rare to have an email address. And you'd say you were one of the first few kids, few thousands of kids.
I probably was like one of the first few kids in the country to have an email address, just because I was really interested.
And your dad wanted to buy stock.
Yeah, my dad came home one day. So we had an email address that was set up on my dad's name. And this is at a time when a household would share an email address, and there might only be one household in a block of streets that had an email address. It was a very
rare phenomenon.
Email, what's that? And why don't I just call somebody or write a letter to them? And so this was in the time when people would want to give their email addresses to people. This is pre-spam, pre-everything. And I remember my dad coming on one day and saying he wanted to buy stocks and shares. We weren't particularly practicing, so we didn't know the
fiqh opinions.
We didn't know the fiqh of it all and stuff. And so he brought some documents and some brochures and things. He wanted me to read them, so I read them and stuff. And then
we used to read them, and in the mornings while he was at work, and then you'd communicate to your mother, and your mother would tell.
So I just I think it was summer holidays or something. So I'd just read it, and then I would tell my mum that this is what I've learned, and then my mum would ring my dad at work and say, okay, maybe we should do this, this, and this. And then he was like, okay, so we opened up a stock account. So my dad came home and opened it and stuff and everything. And then he would try and get me to ring. My mum was like an immigrant from Pakistan and stuff. So she was very shy on the phone. Even though she was an English teacher, it was a bit odd. So she didn't.
It's because like maybe she had an accent or.
Yes, but she just didn't like speaking to people on the phone in English. She just didn't like doing it. So then I had to do it. But I was under 18, so you're not really supposed to do it when you're under 18. My dad was like, they'll be fine, don't worry, just ring them. But apparently you can't do that. You're not supposed to be under 18. You can't really make trades and stuff under 18. But I remember ringing them the first time, and I was actually really nervous about it. But they were like, oh, don't worry, Mrs. Malik, we'll sort that out for you. So they thought I was my mom because my voice hadn't broken. So I got away with it with that. So they just thought Mrs. Malik's doing all the trades.
Awesome.
So that was fine. So I just called them up and go, because my mum's name was on the account as well. So I'd be like, all right, it's Mrs. Malik calling, which was just weird. So my dad put in he sold his car. He put £2,000 in, which now when I think back, I think that's a really dangerous thing to do.
A lot of money back then, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, 1994, to put in £2,000.
Equivalent to about 10,000.
That's very dangerous. That'd be a good 8 to 10k today. It's a very dangerous thing to do.
Wow. And to sell your car for that.
Yeah, it's actually quite a foolish thing to do if you think about it. So he had £2,000. He did it, and then I looked at some shares and I thought, okay, I think this one. We just took some guesses. We put the money in, and there was this financial journalist. I think he used to write for the Telegraph or the Times. I can't remember which. I think it was the Telegraph. His name was Nigel Bolitho. I still remember his name. I remember emailing him going, hi, Mr. Bolitho. I read your article. You have some. What do you think about X, Y, Z? And he would email me back. Because he thought he was speaking to my dad. He thought he was speaking to Mr. Malik. And he would email me back and I'm looking at this at the moment. This is what I think and stuff. And so I'd kind of just, reconcile that with what I saw in the articles and stuff. And I'd put the money in. And within less than 2 years, that portfolio was 22k.
Wow, subhanallah.
So you said that was you mentioned in the book actually it was more to guesswork, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, I was lucky. I did get lucky.
Yeah.
I was guessing. I didn't know what I was doing per se.
But it was a
Calculated
glimpse into the
yeah.
It's very interesting that it was the operations behind all of that was this 14, 15-year-old
Yeah.
boy, but the face of it and the money was coming from your dad.
Yeah, yeah.
and his sold car.
It was I think it was a Vauxhall Cavalier. I think it was.
That's amazing.
It was his
subhanallah.
pride and joy.
So I think just to kind of then move into, I mean, you're getting older.
Yeah.
And you're, now you've been experiencing kind of business for a while with your dad, with the stocks and shares, and you're moving into possibly uni now and looking to set up your own business. At what stage did you kind of move beyond that, working with your dad to kind of thinking about, okay, I want to be an entrepreneur now?
So it would have been about, how old was I? 23, 24. So it's when after uni, I still spent some time with my dad.
Okay.
And then I kind of got tired of that business. I just got really tired. I mean, I'd built 1,000 PCs with my own hands at this point.
Yeah.
It was exhausting. You get fed up of just looking at PCs over. And every house you go to, especially when you're in a Muslim environment, every house you go to, there's, oh, beta, can you just, my laptop's not, my PC's not working, or whatever. And then everywhere I went, I just turned into this IT support agent, and it actually got really exhausting.
Were you doing that as a job, like you were getting paid to?
No, not at that point. But then I did do a corporate job for a year, and I was doing IT support. So it's just, the same thing. It's like if you're a taxi driver and you come home and somebody says to you, "Can you just drop me off at the supermarket?" You're the last person that wants to do it.
I have a question. I don't think this is like the true, but I used to watch IT Crowd, and one of the guys used to be like, whenever you used to receive a call
have
for
you tried
support,
to? Oh yeah.
Have you tried turning it on and off? Have you tried turning it on and off?
It's actually quite true. You actually find it does solve at least 50% of the issues, believe it or not. It used to, yeah. It's quite funny how many issues it can solve.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, so I think I was about 24, and my dad introduced me to this guy, and he'd been working like high up at Compaq, which Compaq was as big as in those days was like, Google was still taking off at this point, remember, and Facebook didn't exist.
Yeah.
So Compaq kind of, in terms of prestige, Compaq had the position what Google has now.
Right. Okay.
Right. So it's like IBM, and then it was Compaq, and then it was a little bit further down was HP, and this guy was very high up in Compaq, and he'd left Compaq and he wanted to go into entrepreneurship, and my dad had met him through somebody else, and my dad was like, I think you should meet this guy. He's really clever and he's really smart and he's trying to start his own business. So I met him, and it was actually me who actually invited him to go to business together. So I said to him, "Let's go into business."
So
together.
how old were you?
I was just about to turn 24, I think.
Okay.
It was 2004, February 2004, I think it was.
Okay.
So I said, "Oh, let's go into business together," and we were going to basically start an IT network company. So it was kind of separate from. So I was building PCs and selling PCs with my dad, but this was more kind of like firewalls, routers.
Yeah. A lot of the software.
The network stuff.
Networks.
Yeah, because he really knew his stuff. So he then spent a year training me.
Okay. Did you doing your degree in computer science? Did it have? Did that create the inspiration for this?
No, I'm sorry. The computer science degree did absolutely. I would say the computer science degree it held me back by a good 4 years. I mean,
really,
some of the things that I wanted to do in business, I kept waiting to do them, and I couldn't do them because I knew I had to study. And then by the time I got around to doing them, it was too late because the market was moving so fast.
Okay. It was, yeah.
At that point.
It was, it was.
It's like if I wanted to create Snapchat now, there's no point. I mean, Facebook has got stories, Instagram's got stories, Twitter's got...
I mean, look at Elon Musk. I mean, when he left Harvard to do he was enrolled for either a master's program there.
Oh, okay.
And he left just to start up his PayPal thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, then you do that 2 years late, it's too late.
Yeah. Same with the other person as well.
I mean, Bill Gates, he left.
Bill Gates,
Bill Gates.
Exactly.
Steve Jobs left.
Yeah.
Zuckerberg left.
So was there any point in uni where you were kind of contemplating, okay, can I juggle my study with starting a business? Do I have to leave uni now and I need to start my business? Or was it kind of like, okay, let me just get my uni done because I'm here now and I'm going to
I didn't have a choice. My mum was adamant that I had to finish uni.
Marriage CV as well, isn't it? You've got the marriage CV to write as well.
Yeah, exactly. So my mum was adamant, so there was no, and
you must get a degree, beta.
Yeah, exactly. So there was no leaving it.
Right.
But I hated it. I just didn't. I had no passion for it, and it just
Sure.
killed my passion completely.
Interesting.
Completely.
So
I
we're
mean,
gonna
I had a passion for programming before I went in. By the time I came out, I was like, forget this.
Subhanallah, okay.
Interesting you mentioned, because we're going to go back to this. It's one of the actual main points we're going to discuss in the next part. But is there anything else?
I mean, you're saying in terms of with Compact, and you were setting up sort of, obviously you had the firewalls, the networks, and all of that. And I said that was, you know, there was no inspiration from uni for that.
No.
So I mean, how long did it take for you to start building that up with your partner and it becoming something that you guys?
Oh, we got. I remember we got something like. So these were customers that you take on for a whole year, right? So they're effectively consulting clients, effectively.
Sure.
I think we signed up 5 customers in a month.
Okay.
So that was really rapid. I mean, B2B is very hard, and I used to just go down the address book at my dad's business and call them and say, oh, we're doing IT networking now. We're kind of a sister company. We're an extension of this business. So the trust factor was there. We'd call them up and we signed them up. We signed customers up really quick. But then it just became a prison sentence because it was so much stress, because it was a 24/7 SLA, which meant the customers could call me any time.
Oh, wow.
So they could call me 6 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday. They could call me on a 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday. I'd be at weddings. I'd be getting calls.
Oh my gosh.
I'd be at.
So your brain wasn't switching off at all.
So it wasn't switching off. So then I suffered adrenal fatigue.
Yeah.
I had very serious adrenal fatigue. It was like proper burnout.
Wow.
It was like I know this is unfair to compare, but it was like being in a war all the time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because you know this is the kind of stuff that soldiers get when they go to Iraq. And
They
have PTSD and that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was literally what it was like.
Do you think that a lot of entrepreneurs like starting up like that, they go through
And
the
the worst of it, the sad thing is that they bring it on themselves. If I'm really honest with myself, I brought it on myself. I had a choice.
Do you think that?
Because there's this aspect. The thing that really annoys me now is if you go down Instagram, right?
Yeah.
It's full of quotes like, you know, I can't even remember the examples because I've learned to process. You know, there are haters and then there are hustlers, and I'm a hustler, and you can, you just turn up in your car and hustle your way past your enemies, and it's like this proper like Godfather, like kind of like war, dog eat dog war kind of talk.
I share the exact same sentiments, because I used to read a lot of self-help books and stuff, and I find that. I feel like they're saying the same things again. Just keep going, don't back down, no matter what.
Yeah, and I'm a hustler. And you watch all the movies, the Lord of Wars, and I can't remember what the other movies. There's this movie about these guys who set up this, who were selling ammunition and stuff. It was a bit like Lord of War. I can't remember the name of it now.
Okay.
It's all the same thing. You just work as hard as you can, and you just kill yourself.
Yeah, sleep in your grave. No time to sleep now.
And then all these quotes are saying the same thing. They're all like, there's no time to sleep, and you know, and all, and it's all nonsense.
But now you're more of an entrepreneur with a spiritual perspective.
Yeah.
Because one of the hopefully, inshallah, if we have the time, one of the topics that I've actually, I've seen you vlog, is Baraka economics. Something we can discuss it later on. But where does this all come from? Because this is all the way you're describing it to me now is the complete opposite.
Yeah. So my
antithesis of what you are.
This is when I say I was asleep. What I'm saying is what I came to realize was, this was. I don't know how to best explain this.
Yeah.
This was my training. So this was 15 years of what not to do.
Right. Okay.
Right. So this was okay. You can have a business that does just under $1 million a year, but you didn't go about it. I was killing myself doing this. Right. So all my friends are watching Matrix and they're playing basketball and they're going. My dad's going to weddings and they're all having. You know, what really upsets me even now is that. In my friends in their 20s, they've done like Snowdonia and they've traveled to Italy and they've done all this. And I'll tell you what I did in my 20s. I built more and more PCs. That's all I ever did.
SubhanAllah, yeah.
Right? So I haven't had a chance to show. When I meet people and they go, oh yeah, and then by the time I got a chance to do these things, you run out of money because you know you got to buy a house and you got to have kids and you got to do all. So you got to spend money on serious things. You can't be footloose and fancy free. Yeah. So I haven't done any of that. I've done little of it, and then on top of that. Your health isn't the same. When you're 20, right? Of
course.
You can go till 3 in the morning, get up at 7, and then do the same thing again. When you get to 40, you cannot do that.
You can't do that, no.
Right? So and then you get more baggage and you get more stress. So I have kind of had those experiences, but then at the same time I kind of haven't. If that
Yeah,
makes
know what
sense.
you
So
mean.
what do you tell people that have caught on to this rhetoric though? You're saying it's clearly false. What do you tell them, because they're clearly bought up into the idea?
You know what? The thing is, it's literally me against the world when I'm speaking to them, because they cannot reconcile this, because we've been taught, and you haven't been just taught this in business. You've been taught this in the jobs as well. The harder you work, the more you earn. I mean, we have people. I mean, we're in the heart of this, right? Canary Wharf. There's people that I have friends. They go to work at 7 in the morning. They work till 7 in the evening. They check into a hotel. They go and sleep for a couple of hours. They come back. They do another hour or two. Then they go to sleep. And then they get up about 5 in the morning and they go back to work. And that'll go on for 2 or 3 days. And then they'll go back home to like Harrow or or wherever it is that they live.
And have they ever complained?
No, they love it. I mean, we had an extended family member, and his son, as soon as he graduated, he got a consulting job in Canary Wharf, and he was doing it wasn't Canary Wharf. It was where was it? It was near Liverpool Street somewhere.
Okay.
He got a flat there, which was costing him a fortune. I mean, literally, the money that he was earning
was all going into
nothing left over at the end of the month. And his dad was telling me that he worked till 3 in the morning one night, and then he got up at 7 in the morning and went back to work. And he was so proud about how hard his son was working, because it was this badge of honor. And my dad was looking at me as if to say, why can't you work as hard as that? I was thinking to myself, this is nuts. I honestly thought this was nuts.
You know,
and I don't tell people how hard I don't work or do work anymore, because A, I don't want to attract the hasad, and B, I know I've got a mother-in-law, don't forget. I've got father-in-laws, I've got extended family. I don't want to share this with them, but I don't work that hard anymore. I do and I don't. Like, I don't work hard physically in that way.
But you work smarter.
I don't necessarily work smarter, but I tell you what I work harder on, that I know for a fact that nobody else works harder on.
Right.
I work on my inward a lot harder than I've met anybody else. If there's something that I don't agree with, or that doesn't sound right, or that scares me, or whatever, I will stop and go, okay, how am I going to get over this?
Yeah.
So do you focus basically on your character?
Yeah,
Character
the adab and the conduct. I
on your mindset.
Very hard.
Mindset,
very, very hard.
Wow.
Right, and I don't find it easy. I actually find it very hard. And I actually have a coach now, and she doesn't teach me anything about business. I think a lot of business coaches are a waste of time, even though I get called into business coaching a lot. I don't really like the term business coaching.
Yeah.
But I have a coach, and she only focuses on like, it's not even character, it's like what's going on in the heart and stuff. So she focuses on, and this woman, I'm telling you, this woman is a legend. She's beyond Tony Robbins. Nobody knows this woman even exists. She's really, really good. And she doesn't know how good she is. And the rest of the world doesn't even know who she is.
But sometimes you meet people like that just gems.
I've met a few people like this.
This is very interesting, this whole kind of way that you explain this, because it's like as if you've gone through kind of this typical like business failures or mistakes or whatever it may
crucible,
be, right?
So to speak, the fire.
In a way, and from that you've extracted what really matters to you, and it seems like it's the total opposite, as in you've gone through all of that, and from that you've taken a whole total opposite lesson. Where somebody might go through that and then learn that, okay, from the business side of things, maybe I should have done this and this and this, but you've actually seen that, okay, I've gone through all of these business mistakes, here's what I could have done better from the spiritual side of things. And I find that like very interesting.
Definitely.
Big question then. You said some of it was a waste of time. But is it a waste of time if it's helped you?
What are we talking about? The degree or the businesses?
Not just the degree, but
just making those
that's
mistakes.
part of your journey, isn't it? If you don't make those mistakes, then they don't
course.
exist. So
So do you think when you decided to, after this sleeping period, to, change, do you think that it helped you change a much quicker, much more faster rate because of the fact that you've considered yourself wasted?
Some things were slower.
Okay.
Some things were slower because I, for a very long time, felt like a major failure. Right. When I got married, I couldn't even afford to pay rent. My financial life just crashed really quickly, and I couldn't make sense of what was going on. So you're newly married and stuff like that. I felt like a major failure. And that has a massive bearing on you. Like we use the term mental health a lot now, right?
Yeah.
It has a massive bearing on your mental, emotional health, everything, and. I couldn't make sense of what was going on with me. So in that sense, it was slower. But when I started to come round to understanding things, then yeah, I was able to make changes really fast.
So what do you say that you should be doing actually? So if you spoke to yourself back in that time when you were making these kind of mistakes, working too hard, etc., what would you tell yourself at that stage to kind of fix this and actually put some benefit rather than struggling?
You know what I would honestly say, and to use the term that the youth like to use is, I would say chill. It would have been far better if I was chilling.
Okay.
But I don't mean chilling as in
like
literally just, you know, burgers every single day and living, you know, the whatever the youth like to distract themselves with.
Yeah.
What I mean is learning to relax and learning to, you know, like what they call witnessing a line every moment, learning to just be fascinated by everything. So just going, oh wow, we built 10 computers this week and we did this. That was fun. Just appreciating what's in front of you.
Could you say that's sort of like reflection as well?
Yeah, but it's more than reflection. It's you know, marveling at stuff. Because reflection, you just reflect, you just kind of contemplate.
Yeah.
It's marveling on things.
In the moment.
Marveling on everything. Marveling on the failures and just marveling on just literally everything. And also just being, I think, now that I look back at it, I probably could have persuaded my mum to not let me go to uni.
Sure.
Because my dad was willing to support me at that point. But my mum kind of is, you know, kind of had the final say. And I could have persuaded her, but I didn't know I was capable of it.
We're going to get onto that specific topic, actually, the next one. And what we've decided or scheduled to discuss is the concept. This is based on your book, so I've got a few quotes here, if I'm allowed to just mention them. So the first chapter the chapter where it's time to get out of the rat race. There was a chapter in his book. It's very early on. As you can tell, I haven't read that far, but it was just full of so much information that was very personal to me, and I can imagine Shu'aib as well.
Okay.
And I think a lot of listeners can resonate with these kind of quotes. Wealth isn't measured purely by our bank balance. It is also the freedom to do with our lives what we want. Then you mentioned, thankfully, the millennial generation is starting to recognize this. I'll get back onto that part of the discussion later on. Then you also mentioned the topic on the need for financial re-education. Now, me coming out of university, the concept of a budget still scares me sometimes. You know, thinking about budgeting, the anxiety you get just checking your bank balance. I'm not sure if that's for everyone.
Everybody gets it.
You know, when you're checking it, you go put your card in the machine. Would you like to see your bank balance?
No.
Would you like a receipt?
You know,
No.
tell you something interesting about that. If you if you do check your bank balance, the reason why they ask you to do that is because they can't that branch and stuff. They can't look into your bank account. But if it appears on screen, they can take a screenshot of just the bank balance, so they can figure out if you're a wealthy guy or not, and they know how to target the marketing towards you. That's what that's for. That's why they want you to show your bank balance.
That is very interesting.
Because that's legal. It's not ethical, but it's legal.
Yeah. I was going to say there's more quotes. I thought we'd say this. Discussing money and financial slavery, amongst others, has been a taboo topic in our communities for too long. We have an ever-growing population of youth that suffers from chronic depression. I don't know how to say this. Burgeoning financial debt, health issues, and a distinct lack of purpose. A huge crisis is brewing right under our noses. Our community is drowning in debt. That leads to the next topic. Another quote here. This is why entrepreneurship is no longer a choice, but a necessity. Our modern education systems are no longer adequately preparing for our youth for the future. And then there's more. I just have to see this. It's time to break out of the industrial mindset and favour entrepreneurship over employment. That's a very powerful statement. I want to get more discussion on that as well. Or at the very least, choose important startups over corporates, because once somebody goes into debt, their thinking faculty is seized and reverts from thinking how to grow to focusing just on how to survive. And with such a mental handicap, we will never prosper. Interestingly, in economics as well, there's papers on this about how people who are poorer make worse financial decisions because of the constraints they have. So it
becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, so
sabotaging.
It's a very interesting discussion to have. Then you quoted Malcolm X and stuff like that about how
the house slave,
the house slaves and stuff like that. You also mentioned never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens
That's not my quote.
can actually that's not
But
the
that's
quote.
Margaret
That's
Mead's
the
quote.
start of the.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has.
Yeah.
And that kind of is a solution to what we've discussed. But I just thought I'd just say that all now because I wanted to get out of my chest.
Okay.
But the topic we want to have.
Really touched you.
Yeah. The topic we're going to talk about now, inshallah, is the concept of debt, enslavement and qualification trap. This is essentially what you mentioned in the early passages of the book. Would you like to elaborate on anything like that, wherever you feel?
Look, there's so many things to say about this. A lot of what you've mentioned, they're all broad, big subjects in themselves.
Yeah.
My dad bought a house in 1992 for £48,000.
Wow.
That's the equivalent. That's a 3-bedroom house.
This sounds ridiculous
with
to
a
hear that
driveway,
figure.
with a garage, with a garden, and in good working order, in good condition. I mean, this was a good house. This is not like a dilapidated kind of roofs falling apart or anything.
Oh my gosh.
And in this day and age,
1992,
that's almost a degree, right?
So.
And if that's what, and I don't want to be disrespectful of you two or anybody else that's of your age watching this.
Yeah.
In my article, I referred to you guys as children, and I say children lovingly. I don't say children
I've got your article.
to patronize you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I mean by that is that fair to give a child the debt that is the size of a mortgage before they've even started? You've not started your lives yet. You're just about starting. Is that fair?
40k debt. Yeah.
That is not fair. Okay, that's the first thing. Secondly, of course you're thinking, I gotta pay off all this debt. Now you cannot chill now. Now you're not thinking about how you're gonna be a better husband. You're not thinking about how are you gonna what are the things you're gonna do for society to build a legacy.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about how you're gonna change the world.
Yeah.
What you're thinking about is how am I going to pay off this debt, and how am I going to afford a house, and how am I just going to survive on a month-to-month basis? If you're looking at your bank balance and going, I don't want to see it, what does that say? That says, I don't have the spare mental capacity to think about changing the world. They've chopped your legs off already. That's horrible. And the worst of this is, most of the children that I speak to, because of the toxic environments that we have now in our families, they're telling me, I don't care about the money. I had to go to uni because that was the only way that I could get away from the house.
That's true.
Right? So why are you getting yourself 40k into debt just to get out of the house? Okay, if you must get out of the house, why not spend 20k traveling around the world and going from culture to culture?
You know, there's a lack of opportunity cost as well.
Yeah.
Apprenticeships, when I started university, apprenticeships wasn't a thing back then.
Yeah. But there were a thing when my dad was growing up.
Yeah, they used to be. They've brought it back.
They're bringing it back.
Yeah.
But I'm saying.
But this was the way of Medina as well.
Yeah.
Medina, you'd go into a guild and you'd have a master and he would train you. Yeah. And it was an apprenticeship. That's what it was.
Actually,
this is the way of Medina. Yeah. This is an Islamic thing. It's not a non-Islamic thing.
I was going to mention to you that. I know this is going to come later on, but because it's within the midst of discussion right now, Shu'aib, PPE graduate.
PPE means?
Politics, philosophy and economics.
Okay.
Me as well, I have an interest in economics and building society through economics. Yeah. And one of the things that interests me now is that, okay, you look at the amount of cost someone invests into a degree now. It works out about £40,000 if they choose to live there as well. That's big.
Size of a house.
Yeah, exactly. So imagine if we had the capacity to divert that 40k and invest it into our own small project.
So you were talking about budgeting earlier, right?
Yeah.
So budgeting the way that our grandma used to budget. What our grandparents used to do is that it used to be the mums that used to do this. So my grandma will. I've not.
Is this the committee stuff?
No, this is not committee. So I asked my because my grandma's got dementia now. May Allah bless her. But I asked my uncle, and he was telling me that my grandma used to do this. So she would have 5 pots. This was in this country, right? She would have 5 pots, and this is the system that I now use as well.
Pots.
5 physical pots. So when my granddad's salary would come in, it'd be right. This pot is for the gas bill and the electricity bill and all that kind of stuff. This pot is for the food and groceries. This pot is for my daughter's wedding fund, and then this pot is for a rainy day, and this pot is for something else. Right, so you have 5 different pots.
Yeah.
Now, you get the 40k, You split that into 5, so you got 8K for investment, right? So this is 8K that you can afford to lose, okay? Even that 8K, you've got to split that another 5 times, realistically.
Yeah.
But 8K that you can afford to lose, okay? So you might put some into gold and silver, you might put some into a startup, you might put some into your own business, you might put some into some halal, ISO, or whatever else, something like that, okay? So one part for training yourself other things, because you're not going to uni. So you could put courses, right? Graphic design course, programming course, a master's, some of the Islamic course.
Something specialized, essentially.
Or even like an Islamic course, because some of these cost quite, like a retreat or whatever.
So you have Sabil.
Okay, you have one part for charity, right? So you can give money to Muslim Aid, and you can give money to
charities,
whatever else and stuff, right? And then you have 2 other parts. One part is for your general costs for the year. Now, 8K as a student, when you're living with your mum, right? That's going to last you 2 years easy, right? You've only got your phone bill and your tube and your right. So that's going to 8K is going to last you. Realistically, if you're smart about it, it's going to last you about 3 years, right? So now, what you have left is £8,000, which is you are encouraged to chill. So you got 8 grand left for chilling. Right, so what does 8 grand buy you? You could, if because when you're young, you can afford to live the hostel lifestyle, right? 20 quid a night, right? So you jump on the Eurotunnel and you go to Paris, and then you go from Paris you get on the train and you go to South France, and then from there you go to Switzerland, and from Switzerland you go to Geneva, and then you go to Liechtenstein, and then you keep going, and that 8 grand is going to last you a year. And what are you going to learn from that? Like you go into a cafe and you sit and you speak to some old man and he tells you a story about, I don't know, whatever, and then you go to the next person, and when you open yourself up to going with the flow, what is that going to teach you in a year? Think about what that's going to teach you. And I'll tell you a true story about this. There was a friend of my dad's, and when my dad finished school, this guy decided to go off and do exactly this for a year. Exactly this, what I'm talking about, for a whole year, while my dad got married and got a job and all that kind of stuff, right? And I met this guy was the same age as my dad when I went into this IT network business. So that would have been about 40, 45-ish, 50-ish, right? Something like that. And he had a very successful IT installations business. So they would, these fiber optic cables that you install, large scale. Okay. So even like the BT tower and all that stuff, right? The large scale stuff that you do. And he had contracts with Vodafone, BT, all these kind of companies. And I was like, how did you stumble upon this idea and how did all this come about? And he goes, well, I was on my travels like when I was 21, 22 years old. And I was in, I don't know where he was, Yemen or something, all right? Because this is pre-war and stuff. Because he was part of his family's from Yemen anyway, but he was traveling. And he goes, I met these guys and they were digging up these cables and stuff. And they're like, come here, let me show you what to do. And he goes, he showed me how they were digging these cables and everything. And he goes, they were working with some company. And then he goes, I met those guys, and they said, oh yeah, we can show you how all this works. And they showed him how, they just wanted to show him. They showed him how it worked, and he came back to England, he set it all up. And he was playing golf, and he met that guy happened to be like the CEO of like Vodafone or something like that. And next thing you know, he's got, and like you look at the track that my dad took, this guy was chilling and had this multi-million-dollar business.
Wow.
And that wasn't from a degree. All of that was from
the experience of traveling.
Experience.
It goes back to what you were saying earlier about the concept of marveling.
Yeah, because this guy, when you meet this guy, he used to marvel at everything. When I used to have when the IT server networks, when they used to fail, all the CEOs used to freak, and this guy, he would just be like, oh, when will it come back up? I'm losing quite a bit of money, but I'd be really grateful if you could bring it back up. Because you've seen the world, you're calm and you've seen everything, and you have this. It
becomes so small, that issue in the grand scheme of things, because you've seen so much. That one issue of that thing going down just becomes something so small.
Yeah, it's like when you try and put a tennis ball into a teacup. To that teacup, if that was a living thing, teacup, the tennis ball is disaster. But when you have a swimming pool, a tennis ball is a little annoyance. And when you have a football field, a tennis ball is, you don't even know it's there.
So your mind should be like that, is that what you're saying as well?
Yeah, your heart should be like that.
Your approach.
And I'm learning these things now.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to implement these things now.
And these are things that, you want to start implementing and give off to future generations. If you have kids, or if, your brothers and sisters have kids or whatever, you want to start telling them and educating them about this kind of thing.
You see the child, and I point these out to my wife now all the time. You see the 2-year-old or the 3-year-old kid, right? And why are kids such a joy? Because they're full of wonder, right? They're full of wonder. Every little, like, they get a piece of paper and you rip the piece of paper and they start laughing and everything. And you just love them because they're such innocent, such marveling beings, right? And then literally you see that kid a year later and the kid is a bit slower, a bit less marvel. Why? Because the kid's gone to school and he's got a 9 to 3 shift at school and he's bored out of his head, or she's bored out of her head, and they start switching on. That marvel just starts to disappear. They just start going more into their head and they just start switching off.
Also, it could be the external factors like parents. Muslims, generally speaking, they're from lower socio-economic backgrounds in the UK and they're poorer. And that has an impact on the child.
There is that aspect of it, but if you read this book called Dumbing Us Down, it's written by John Taylor Gatto, right? He explains how the schooling system is designed to break the child from their intuition. It's to break their sense of wonder. It's designed to do that.
But what if they could find that sense of wonder outside of school hours? I'm not agreeing with that.
That's like saying, okay, well, what if they were in prison for 8 hours, in a jail cell for 8 hours, but then they had 8 hours at home, and then went back to the jail cell for 8 hours.
I agree.
And that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
And you look at Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, all these people, Elon Musk, they all went to Montessori schools where all they do is play. They don't have a prison system.
Interesting.
Right.
And you still see the sense of wonder. I mean, Bill Gates, you still see a sense of wonder on him.
Yeah.
It's true.
And Elon Musk.
Yeah.
But Steve Jobs had it as well, but you don't see it on, Jeff Bezos as well.
So what do you tell people that might criticize this and say that, well, how are you going to possibly learn, solid skills and build your intellect if you don't go to school or university?
Let me ask you, how does a child learn how to ride a bike? Does the child sit and read a book and then learn the history of bikes and then do an exam and then learn how to ride a bike? I mean, what's going to happen to that child that sits an exam, never touched a bike, but read all the books, read all the history, done his exam, and you put him in front of a bike, what's going to happen?
Before I answer that, it reminds you of this passage in Alchemist about that man who read about the books of becoming an alchemist.
Yeah.
And the main character himself in the book, he just lives life marveling, and he ends up being with the company of the alchemist himself. Whereas the person who read for 20 years, there was no use. So to answer that question, I would say that...
well, how do you think I learned how to build computers?
Experience.
I mean, I had a guy who taught me a little bit, and you just keep failing and keep failing. But failure has become such... it's just become such a... It's almost as if failure is haram, basically.
But that's what it's become. But you know why, though? Because this actually ties into alhamdulillah, this ties into the discussion itself. We're talking about debt, enslavement, and qualification trap. Within that, we discussed the issues of a failing system, and I got a few, discussion points: student debt, house price inflation. That's a very serious one. Family pressures of conventional careers. We've discussed that already. It's partially described. Power struggle, the illusion that the youth they don't have the power to make the change. It's just the elderly people who are running the committees and stuff like that.
That's not true.
It's not true?
No.
Okay.
No, the youth have so much power, it's unreal.
As in, they don't feel there's a power.
That's true.
There's an illusion.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and then I got here, depression and insecurities due to a rat race and high youth unemployment. But that sort of that sensitivity, for example, I was speaking to my head teacher about this when I was in madrasa. He was saying that with adult classes, you can't tell them off too much, or you can't tell them that this is a mistake too much, because they're very sensitive and they don't like the idea of failing.
Yeah.
And so he found out that a lot of them
Most people don't want to go into business. Really talented people that have the money, that have the time, the resource, the skill, everything. They don't want to go into business because they're afraid of failing. And even more than that, what I've realized now with this generation that we have, and which is amplified with social media, and this is not just affecting the youth, this is affecting all the stratas, right? Is the fear of vulnerability is just unreal.
Yeah.
People are just afraid to be criticized for something. How dare you write a book? How dare you? Who do you think you are to do this, this, and this?
Yeah, it's true.
It's unreal.
One thing that I think alongside of that is the fear of not just failure, but the fear of kind of having to struggle or having to find like difficulty, in the sense that somebody might be so used to having like a consistent salary that they can't imagine that they'd have to give up something consistent and then try and get into that risk.
That's not what Allah Ta'ala has taught us. It's not the way that Allah Ta'ala has asked us to live. It's not any of that. I mean, Rasulullah said that 9/10 of your rizq come from trading. This is a verified hadith. 9/10 of your rizq come from trading. So 1/10 that we're now living on and trying to survive on a salary. And you know what Ibn Khaldun said? Ibn Khaldun said that there's 3 ways that you can earn a living. There's fishing, which is okay. Fishing, those kind of things, right? Fishing, farming, that kind of stuff.
Agriculture.
Yeah, there's trading,
right,
which is the better way.
Yeah.
Or he said slavery, and what he meant by slavery was employment.
Right.
This is Ibn Khaldun.
Yeah, because back then they used to have appoint slaves and stuff like
To
that.
do that.
He says employment is for the rich to get richer, because when they're rich, they're so lazy, they don't want to do anything themselves. So what they do is they hire employees that do everything for them, but the wealth gets transferred to them. Yeah. And what do you see now? If you go and work for Google and you come up with a multi-million-dollar winning idea, like, I don't know, you met some new smartphone OS or whatever, who's really gonna benefit from that? You as an employee or the CEO of Google?
The person at the top.
And if you look at how many hours you put into that organization, how many hours you put into work.
Yeah, and people do it with pride.
Yeah.
So it's like having a badge of honor on. I'm a dignified slave, which is back to the Malcolm X thing. That's just house slave mentality.
Yeah.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, you know, Malcolm X used to say this. Malcolm X, it's this famous speech. I think it's Michigan University in 1963, and he talks about the and we can't really use this word anymore.
Field slaves and the house slaves.
The house slave.
Yeah,
There's another term that he actually uses, but it's the house slave and the field slave. And he says it's the field slave despised the master, but knew he or she had to be there.
Yeah.
But they despised the master, whereas the house slave that was in the house, he would take care of the clothes. He'd press the clothes and he'd eat with the master and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But when the master used to get sick, the house slave would go, "Oh boss, are we sick?"
We sick.
Because everything was we. He was that ingrained.
Yeah.
And if the house was on fire, the house slave would
try and put it out as much more than even the master would try.
He was that loyal, you know. And so when you went on another 20 or 30 years, when we had the liberation, there's what you call the Uncle Tom. He became the Uncle Tom. He's, you know, we have prosperity in America and all this kind of stuff and everything because he was mentally so enslaved. The field slave had physical enslavement. This was mental enslavement.
So how are you comparing that?
And we see this even in the East, in India and Pakistan, and these kind of places.
So how do you compare that to the aspect of business and employment?
The employment, degrees, all this stuff. This is all an enslaved mindset.
Right. You know, this reminds me of, after salah, after the first salah, the Prophet used to say, Allahumma inni as'aluka al-huda wa-tuqa wal-afafa wal-ghina.
Okay.
Wal-ghina. So Allah, he used to ask, Allah, grant me ghina. Enrichment, self-stability, self-sufficiency, independency. And we know that from one of Allah's names is Al-Ghani itself. Allah is the ever-resourceful. And, and there are various parts in the Quran that talks about this. Wallahu ghaniyun hamid. And what basically this means is that you can never, there are two dimensions. There's dimension that only Allah is the ever-resourceful, self-sufficient, and you want to achieve that yourself. From an arrogant perspective, you will never be able to achieve that. But there's also the independent, the sunnah of the person to be independent, to not be reliant on everyone else, but to have that self-sufficiency and independency. And that's why trade was such an important avenue for that.
You can't get that from employment.
Yeah.
People in corporate environment will sabotage you. They will completely sabotage you in order to protect their job because they have that much fear about, it took me a long time to learn this. You know, people in the corporate environment that climb to the top and all this, I used to think, wow, they're so intelligent, they're so capable and all this. And then I realized that the only way that they've climbed to the top is because they've stepped on everybody else, right? You see this all the time in the corporate environment.
It's true.
And then I used to think, well, they must be so tough to... Okay, I don't appreciate the fact that they've climbed to the top and stepped on everybody else, but I used to think, okay, you have to be really tough to do that, right? Because that behavior gets rewarded, especially in like Canary Wharf and the banks and stuff. And then I thought, wait a minute, I realized that the only reason that they're bullying everybody else is because they're so afraid because they're so afraid of losing their paycheck that they're willing to kill everybody else, to push everybody out away. So that's not strength, it's not bravery, it's fear.
It's fear.
It's a bit like game theory. You know, one man's win is another man's loss.
Yeah.
That's how they operate. That zero-sum game. That's how they operate. That's how they think.
But it's fear. It's all fear-driven.
And it's actually.
I have no respect for those people anymore. The higher that person is, the less respect I have for them.
It's also something that's deeply un-Islamic, because we know that cooperation and working together and establishing justice is such an important aspect in our lives. And do you feel that with entrepreneurship is giving you that avenue to find that sort of outlook?
It can. It's not being done enough, but it definitely can.
Yeah.
That's why I'm encouraging it the most. That we have to, entrepreneur. The definition of an entrepreneur. There's no real actual definition of it per se. I'm sure France, because the word is French, they must have had a proper definition of it, which I haven't looked into. I should. But Natalie Sisson, she says that the entrepreneur is an agent of change. That's what it means. Because you say that there's a wrong that I want to right, and as you then work on righting that wrong, and the side effect of that is that you make money as well. So you solve the problem in society.
Right.
But Allah Ta'ala, how do we serve Allah Ta'ala? You serve Allah Ta'ala by serving creation.
Yeah.
And how do you serve creation? You solve their problems.
It's definitely a huge part.
So you create solutions. And what are problems? They're wrongs. And you right them, so that's solutions.
Enjoining the good and forbidding the evil in a way.
Entrepreneurship.
And so it's interesting that you're saying that it's the side effect is the money. That's not
the money will never be the
main focus.
No, and this is the danger that we now have in the Muslim society, is that yes, you need to earn money and you want to attain money, but that's not your definition of success.
Otherwise, it's slavery as well.
Yeah, you can become slave to the money, but also you can shortchange everybody else in trying to achieve profit.
Yeah,
it's true.
Your intention gets muddled up.
Yeah, your intention should be, I want to change society.
Yeah.
And we all struggle with that. I'm still learning this and trying to get into that set.
Yeah.
But I remember this one brother said to me, "Oh brother, if you write this book, $1 billion Muslim, if you don't become my sheikh was joking to me when he was saying, it'll be embarrassing if you don't become a billionaire, but but what if what if something happens to your business and you become penniless and nobody's going to buy your book because you're saying become $1 billion Muslim and you've got no money to your name?" And I was like, that's not the intention that I'm writing the book for.
Yeah.
And it can still happen. It could happen tomorrow.
Yeah. That you just become penniless.
I might.
Yeah.
But if the person doesn't want to read my book for that reason, then what does that say about them? What intention are you reading this with?
Because a lot of
What's
people,
your judgment?
You should always have the concept of husn and then bin nas is one of the major concepts of a Muslim in terms of character building, to have good thoughts of people.
Yeah.
But because of the sort of pain and sort of like emotional struggles of lots of people in the system who haven't found that outlet, to that spiritual outlet, that connection to God and that peacefulness of mind, and so they've sort of put their insecurities on everyone else's progress.
Yeah, but also what I would also say in addition to that is that, look, whatever you put out there, right, you're actually putting it on yourself. If I judge you for something, let's say I decide to judge you for your shoes, what I'm actually doing is judging myself. So if I'm judging you for your shoes or whatever, so I'm judging you for your status, what I'm really doing is judging myself. And what that does, it makes me more closed, it makes me more fearful, it makes me more guarded.
So
right, so the less you judge other people, the less you're judging yourself, the freer you become.
Subhanallah.
Do you know what's quite interesting? Yeah, and I think I keep going back to this point. That when we're having the discussion with you, a lot of the kind of the benefits that you're getting from your experience within business seem to be more benefit. There seems to be more benefit spiritually, or more benefit in terms of mindset, in terms of character, than sort of. Benefit through like business benefits and things like this, and it is quite interesting in that way.
But you have to open yourself up to it, and I find that in the jobs you don't get that. You don't get that the sweetness of it, and it's this is the sweetness of entrepreneurship. It's not the money and those things are material side effects, and you're not guaranteed to make a lot of money in entrepreneurship. The system is not designed to let you prosper. Right, so it's entrepreneurship is hard,
right?
And you'll have good days and bad days, and it's just a constant roller coaster, right, all the time.
Yeah.
But the actual sweetness of it is the spiritual growth. That's the real.
That ties in so nicely with our next topic.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about that concept and how entrepreneurship can find some of the solutions that we need in society. We've talked about the issue of a failing system. in terms of a long-term solution, we collectively need to go towards entrepreneurship. Not everyone, but people who have that creative mindset, have that, who don't feel like they're not boxed in by the definitions of mainstream people and mainstream ideas. So for those people, what could you talk a bit more about the aspects of entrepreneurship and legacy building and how we can go about it the right way? I mean, we're not asking for a manual. We're asking for just an overall inspection on how we can do that.
See, if you'd asked me a year ago, I'd have said just look for a wrong in society that you can right, and that's it, and just start working on it. And when I say wrong, we're not talking about right. Well, there's not enough women wearing hijab, so I'm going to make all the women. I mean, you got to get past this. We're talking about real things that are an issue. But you know what I would say this year, what's a really good example is, I don't know how much you're following Pakistan and Pakistan politics, but you've seen Imran Khan come in, and he's given a list of problems with the country. He's given 41 problems with the country. I think it was 41.
Something like that.
There's no clean water for the children. There's education system is broken, and there's a whole long list. Right, and look, he's the policy maker. Right, so Imran Khan, he's going to come in and he sets the policy. We have to fix the clean water, and we're going to assign resources to it. We have to do this. Now the implementers are entrepreneurs. The entrepreneur takes a responsibility or a problem, and goes and fixes it. So I could be Imran Khan, and I could come to you and say we need clean water in the country, and we have these funds. Now it's your responsibility to go and find the technology that can clean the water up and create the sanitation and everything, and then find the right people, bring that technology in and distribute it all around the country. Okay, that's the responsibility of the entrepreneur. And I've mentioned this in the book, that the policies might be set by the policymakers, but the people on the ground that actually implement these are the entrepreneurs. Right. So what I would say is think big and think global. Right. I mean, you could, if you want to be thinking at the level of Imran Khan's looking for people to implement these solutions, right, I'm going to approach him and say, this is a problem that I can solve, I want to come and solve this for you. Think as big as that. Think big. Don't think as far as your local street.
Right.
Allah Ta'ala wants you to have
do you think there should be a logical progression though? That you should start from smaller and get bigger?
No, go straight to the top. Look, nothing can happen without the permission of Allah Ta'ala. And when I'm saying this to you, I'm saying this to myself, because I'm coming around to these ideas now myself.
Sure.
I'm learning this. The whole thing is a journey, right?
Yeah.
So I'm teaching myself at the same time. But nothing can happen without the permission of Allah Ta'ala. Okay? And even like when you take a tablet, a medication, it's not the medicine that heals you, it's Allah Ta'ala that heals you. So you just have to have the intention. If you have the intention that I want to fix the whole world with this XYZ problem, when you make the intention, it's up to Allah Ta'ala is just using you as a vessel. You're a vessel.
Yeah.
But it's for you to remember now. It's for you to submit to Allah Ta'ala. So you make the intention. Say, Allah Ta'ala, I want to solve XYZ for you, because of you, right? And I want this to bring me closer to you as a result. And I just want to be your vessel through me. I want you to solve this problem, right? Through me. If you think that this problem is worthy of solving. If not, lead me to a problem that is going to be solved, that is worthy of solving through you, and let me be the vessel, and let me be the vessel that that you solve this through. So you're not solving that problem. Allah Ta'ala is solving it, but you're the vessel.
Yeah.
It's not. So then I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you don't have the money or the resource or the skill or anything. I mean, Allah Ta'ala is infinite. He's the one that's created this world. He's going to solve it, not you. So you relax into it. You chill into it. You marvel your way into it.
It's just a mindset, basically.
That's it.
SubhanAllah.
And I'm learning this stuff now.
Yeah, SubhanAllah, it's very
How lucky are you to learn this at your age, right? I wish I knew this.
You know, that's quite funny, because when I'm doing this podcast, there are people that are 18 now watching this, and I'm saying to them subconsciously, how I wish I had this when I was your age. So
how I wish I had this when I was your age.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, very,
do you think that has helped your health as well, having this mindset?
It is starting to now. Now it's starting to. It's getting there. But what I've realized is my health is a series of habits.
Sure.
Okay, so you're rewiring yourself.
For a lot of us, it's just, we end up rewiring ourselves in a particular way. But I'm learning that stuff now.
Alhamdulillah. This is, I mean, so interesting. I always bring it back, keep bringing it back to this point, but this is what I'm learning, yeah, is that business itself is a means for understanding Allah's attributes, understanding, you know, Tawheed and being able to internalize, you know, the aspect
basically
of
what
oneness.
he said is Tawheed.
Exactly. That's what it is.
So what I say in the book is that
Through business.
all the prophets when they came, they were all shepherds. But the reason why they were shepherds is because that they were there's the physical aspect of doing something,
Yeah.
and then there's like the spiritual aspect. So the physical aspect, you do wudu, you physically clean yourself, and then the salah is to spiritually clean yourself, right? So there's a physical, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So the prophets, when they came, they were to lead the people, but they were shepherds because in shepherdry you learn, you know, looking after the sheep, you learn how to manage. Okay? Now, what the closest thing that I found in the modern day was entrepreneurship. That if you want the physical aspect of how you want to grow spiritually, the closest thing that I can find to that is entrepreneurship.
I mean, could you talk a bit more about that ties in with entrepreneurship?
Yeah.
Baraka economics.
So what aspect of that?
So, like, how it works.
It's quite interesting when, so I never came across this term before, and then when Asim told me that, okay, we're going to
I mean, it's a suitable term.
I'll give you the
understand.
best example of this, right? The best example of this is at the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, right? He's the governor, he's the Khalif, and at this time there is a governor in a walaya that says to him, they lost a couple of battles and stuff, a couple of campaigns, expeditions and things, and they said to him, can you send us reinforcements? Okay, so send us more soldiers and stuff. So he writes a letter to Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, and Umar ibn al-Khattab says, writes him a letter back and says, I'm sending you a reinforcement. And I think it was like one man that turned up. Do you know this story?
No,
so one man turns up, and this governor of this walaya is like, I'm expecting a whole army. Who are you? There's one man that turns up. And the man goes, I'm the reinforcement. And he goes, I don't understand. And he goes, what he sent me to do, he goes, I'm going to do an audit of all your practices, right? So he does the audit, right? And he goes, not that I want to encourage, because, you know, there's so much emphasis on this, but you'll understand what I mean. So he goes, your men aren't doing miswak. So the man goes, all right. So anyway, so they start doing the miswak again. And then when they go to the battle, you know the story about the miswak and the Muslims are coming,
Right,
These men were doing the miswak and they're like, oh, they're going to eat us and all this kind of stuff. Do you remember this?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so you can expand on this later, inshallah. But so the physical aspect of it, the men, when they went into the next battle, the other men ran off because they saw the Muslims doing the miswak because they thought they were going to eat them.
Right.
But the spiritual aspect of it was, you're not doing the miswak. So there was, the way that look at the barakah of it, how it came in. So
something so subtle, so small, has a huge impact.
Yeah, it's so left field. And it looks like, how is this connected to the barakah of this? Right? But the barakah was that do the miswak. So it's not the act of the miswak. The barakah is, what is it in our sunnah that we're missing? And you go back to the sunnah, and then the physical matters
comes to
they fix themselves, right? So Sheikh Darqawi, he says that, you know, if you want to stop worrying about your risk and your material matters and all this, then the best thing that you can do is go back to Allah Ta'ala, right? And then and he also, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that the more you chase after dunya, the more it run away from you. And the more you run away from dunya, the more it will chase you. So what I say to the business men, which they never take from me, when their business is being caned and it's a complete mess and everything, I say to them, stop working. Just stop going to work and slow down. They can't do it because they're so afraid for their dunya that they can't do it. And the thing is, in their heart, the spiritual aspect, in their heart of relaxing and turning to Allah Ta'ala changes everything. But they can't do it.
Even when you go back and you engage in ibadah and stuff and you have a fresh mind and you're relaxing, when you go back to, sometimes you go back to the situation, you've got the answer straight away.
I'm suffering from a back and hip injury at the moment, and it has taken me up. My coach has been taking me through this now. Like I said, I have this spiritual coach. And she basically said to me, we got to kind of this thing, and she said, okay, you know what, let's get you to the point of where you're relaxing more and more, so you're not getting. I've been for the last, I don't know how long it must be 15 years probably, right? where every single day, the first thing I do in the morning, I jump on the computer. Before it was a desktop PC, then it was a laptop. For 10 years, I've been on the computer from 9 in the morning till 6 o'clock in the afternoon. And there are days when I don't have actual work to do, and then I find work to do, right? Oh, I'll send emails, I'll further develop my website, I'll do this or whatever. And I physically could not get away from my computer or my laptop to do something else. So if my wife said to me, we need to go and get groceries, if my parents turned up or whatever, I'd just freak, even though I didn't have actual work to do.
Yeah.
And then when I finally started doing it, recently I started doing it, my back starts getting better because I've been hurting my hips. I'm charging my laptop once a week. I'm worrying constantly about my laptop. I'm gonna, if I wear this laptop out, I'm gonna have to buy a new laptop. Now I'm charging it once a week. So now the laptop's not getting cane. And then the doctor's saying to me, you need to swim more, you need to do 10,000 steps a day and all this kind of stuff. I ain't got time. Now all of a sudden, I've got the time to do it.
Yeah.
I've got the time to swim. So my health is getting better. So now I can go back to work and I can work more.
There is this principle. I mean, what's your opinion on this principle, like the 80-20 principle, where you put in, or is it 20-80 principle? You put in 20% of the effort and you get 80% of the results. Could you kind of use that analogy, and based on what you've said, where you've actually made your life a complete...
I haven't got to that point because it's always a journey and it's not easy to do. I haven't really got to that point just yet. So there will be a lot more to learn about that. And I don't know if you can call it an 80-20 or anything like that, but what I would say is that, how's the best way to explain it, is you've got to learn to lean into Allah Ta'ala. What is it that He wants of me? And you've got to be able to witness Him in the moment every single time and go, what is required of me at this point? And that is not a 9 to 5, and that is not 60 hours a week. There might be some weeks, like on a movie production schedule, if you're making a movie, you might need to do all 5 scenes in 5 days for whatever reason. You might need to do that, right? But then it might be a month where you just relax.
Yeah.
But a lot of this actually comes down to actually just not giving in to your nafs. Because it's your nafs that forces you to do the 9 to 5, because your nafs has been trained to do that.
Yeah.
And you're not being trained from work, you've been trained from school.
It reminds me of a verse that you meant in Surah Al-Imran, الَّذِينَ يَذْكُرُونَ اللَّهَ قِيَامًا وَقُعُودًا وَعَلَى جُنُوبِهِمْ. That those who remember Allah, standing, sitting and lying on their sides. And then after that, وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, and reflect over the creation of the heavens and the earth.
You in every moment you think like, and I've only just been learning this recently, is do I need to take my laptop out today? Do I need to take it out? Well, not really, right? Do I need, there's these 50 things that I need to do on my to-do list. Do I actually need to do them? Like, what am I going to achieve even if I get them done? Not really. There are some things I need to get done. Some things are important.
What is the
what
outcome?
is actually important? What actually matters? And you find on your to-do list, it's like 5 things. And you might find something new turns up on the day. This, I've been sending audio messages to my coach because she's like, give me a log or a journal. And I sent some audio messages to her. So this is how my day's gone today. And she was ecstatic. She goes, you know what? Even I need to learn from this. Because we were learning at the same time. Because I wasn't teaching her. I was like, this is what I've experienced today.
Wow, I mean, we can kind of talk about our experiences. Before we get onto that, I was going to talk about the, you know what I would say to the both of you after this is finished? I would say, come and spend a day with me whenever you've got time. Come to Wembley and I'll show you, because you can give me feedback as well if you like. I'll show you how I'm spending a day. Okay, interesting. And it will not be anything like you think. Nothing like what
That'll be very interesting.
It will be really weird.
That'll be interesting though.
Come, you're more than welcome.
I'll take her.
And you can bring as many people as you like.
We're not too far from Wembley anyway.
Bring as many people as you like. Just watch how I spend my day. But you just watch.
Inshallah.
We'll do a coaching session where you just watch how I spend my day.
I appreciate it.
You're more than welcome.
I
love company. I love spending time with other people, but they don't want to do it with me for whatever reason. But I love doing it, and I love just taking people under my wing and just going, okay, look, this is how I'm doing stuff.
You like to mentor in a way.
Yeah, I don't like to overdo it because it does take a lot of energy.
Of course.
I don't like to be responsible for that person's result. But I have no issue. If somebody calls me and goes, I just want to come and spend time with you, and I want to help you with this or whatever, I love that. I'll take on, if 20 people turned up tomorrow and said, okay, we'll just chill with you, whatever it is you're doing, I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
And it helped you, that sort of...
I love it. And it helps them way more than it helps me every single time.
That's amazing.
This brother I was telling you before this started, that I trained somebody how to use a camera in 22 minutes.
Yeah.
Never touched a camera before, knew nothing about photography. I taught him in 22 minutes, right? He basically, I was gonna do a talk or something, and he goes, "Oh, I just want to come and just chill with you while you do this talk." So he turned up and said, actually, I could do with a camera assistant. Do you mind if I train you? And he was like, "Yeah, I'd love it." So I trained him how to use a camera, and then he became my camera assistant. And I didn't have to go and find one.
Wow.
Just for that weekend, and he loved it. He really, really enjoyed it. And the talk was really useful as well, and the whole thing was just really cool. That was it. And then he went back. I think
this is a good example of that whole chill factor that you were saying.
Yes, chill factor, because when you meet, look, when I say chill, what you're trying to get to a point of, meeting Allah Ta'ala. You're trying to get to a point of witnessing Him. That's what you want, right? When the first day that I started this whole thing, right, I actually, because I can't swim very well. I'm afraid of the water. And normally when I go swimming, I normally take another person with me because I've got a frozen shoulder a little bit as well. So, and I've got a bad back. So to go into the deep end without somebody with me, on the spur of the moment, normally I'd have to plan it for 2 days in advance, right? On the spur of the moment, to go without somebody and then to go into the deep end and with a frozen shoulder and a bad back without any support or anything. That's, for me, it's quite a big deal. And I ended up doing it on the spur. I made the decision, I think, at 1 o'clock, and at 1:15 I was in the pool, right? And if I told you some of the other things that came together, I ended up getting the pass to the pool for free.
No way.
Yeah, for free. I was expecting to pay for it. The pool was empty. I was expecting it to be full of people. There was a million things that happened, right? And I went in, I think I must have been in 20 minutes. And I literally, the minute I did the first stroke, I went, Subhanallah. I said Alhamdulillah 3 times. I started crying. Because I witnessed Allah Ta'ala in that moment.
Because you swam?
No, because it was, now I'm getting this, and now I understand that my day-to-day is about coming closer to you.
Yeah.
And at that moment, coming closer to Him was to go for a swim. It wasn't the next, I thought I'll be doing this the next day, and the next day it wasn't about that. The next day was something else.
So the concept of living in the moment.
The concept of witnessing Allah Ta'ala, it's the concept of nearing to Allah Ta'ala every day. What is it that's going to bring me near to you every day? And at that point, what was going to bring me was to go for a swim. I know it doesn't sound logical, but that's what it was.
Yeah. Because it gave you that moment of marveling, that moment of reflection, and clearly that gave you a boost
But if I hold myself, because what happens is when people go into business, what they do is they literally pick the job up and then they enforce it on themselves.
Yeah.
So they create their own prisons. And I'd done exactly the same thing. I never realised I'd done it.
There's no way of getting out that and having that opportunity to marvel and have that moment of reflection.
So it's right. I have to work from 9. I have to work till 5. I have to get my laptop out. I have to write 1,000 words a day. I have to speak to 20 customers a day. I have to do all these 100 things, right? So I just broke free. And on I am telling you, it was one of the best days I've ever lived. And that was just a few weeks ago. And I had nobody to share it with. I couldn't go into Facebook and go, I'd do a post on Instagram and go, the best thing you can do is this, because nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah.
Right? And so I've been trying to practice it. And I fall in and I fall out of it. Believe it or not, there's a number of things that I had to do today. And then you messaged me and I thought to myself, what is the best thing for me to do? And I thought, no, the best thing for me to do is to come here. So that's what I did.
SubhanAllah.
How are you finding it so far?
I'm loving it. I absolutely love it.
How about you, Shaif?
Good, alhamdulillah. So I wanted to, on that point, it seems like you're starting to get to a point in your life where you're able to kind of envision the world in a very different way.
Yeah, I'm getting there.
And so as like somebody who's a strategist, you try to, change your world through strategy. As you've now become like an author, you try and change your world through linguistics and through kind of language and writing ideas and spreading that to people. So for you and amongst your kind of different roles, what is your kind of vision for the world in terms of where do you see yourself yourself and the world kind of going towards?
You know, I would say that I actually find Pakistan very interesting at the moment. I'm Pakistani heritage anyway, but I wrote Pakistan off a long time ago. I completely dismissed Pakistan, completely wrote it off.
Yeah.
But literally, and I'm not saying this as an opportunist in the sense of, oh wow, I see benefit for myself there now. But as soon as Imran Khan came and he gave his first address at the inauguration speech, and then he gave his first address and all these kind of things. I mean, I don't really know him very well. I don't know anything. I don't know much about him at all. So I have to go on what people are telling me, but he seems quite sincere.
Right.
So I found that very interesting. And as you go through to the end of my book, you'll understand that what he is saying is very much in line with the theme of what my book is about.
Yeah.
And this is a natural coincidence. It's not. I hadn't written this because this was written 2 years ago.
Of course.
So there's that happening. Then there's CPEC, which is this Chinese-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is like a $90 billion fund now. They're coming in there. Sheikh Umar Vadilo is there, who take a lot of my...
Oh, is he based in Pakistan?
He's in Pakistan at the moment, yes.
Okay.
So he's there. The first anti-riba bill in the world that was introduced by his wife in Pakistan. Wow. Okay, so she's there. And I've recently, because I learned to stop chasing things and I learned to switch off and learning to live in the moment, things started coming to me. And so I've had people come to me just recently. One of the most successful Muslim entrepreneurs in this country, I just spoke to a couple of weeks ago. As I spoke to him, I spoke to a couple of others, and all these people are very interested in Pakistan, because what Pakistan presents as an opportunity is that if you try and do something here, you're only really going to be able to do it in your local communities.
Yeah.
Right. I'm talking from a resource perspective.
Yeah.
Only Allah knows. Maybe you can achieve a lot more than that. But what I'm saying is that's what presents itself in front of us. What Pakistan represents is you get a chance to do something for the whole of Pakistan that then beams out to the whole of the world. On top of that, you've got the support of the regime, because this is what Imran Khan wants.
Yeah.
And you've got a whole nation of individuals that want to do this as well.
Right.
So the opportunity is massive, and then you've got the money that's coming in from CPEC and all this. So the opportunity is. I believe me when I say this. This is probably going to be the greatest economic shift you're going to witness in your lifetimes.
Interesting.
This is going to be bigger than anything you've ever seen, right? So I want to be a part of that. So I'm looking at this. I'm observing this, and I'm thinking, how can I be a part of this? And I'm not looking at this from a perspective of, well, this is going to turn me into a billionaire. I'm looking at this as there are forces that are coming together that are going to create huge change. I must give myself to those forces, because maybe this is what Allah Ta'ala wants. Right. So that's what I'm looking at. What that's going to look like in practice, I don't know. But that's what I'm looking at.
Oh, that's very interesting.
But what is your personal vision of the world? So like, how do you see, if you were to describe a utopic world?
I think what I'm looking at, I think Pakistan is going to end. I think Pakistan is going to end up implementing the template of Medina from a muamalat perspective. Now remember, 2/3 of our deen are muamalat. So muamalat means social affairs.
Yeah.
Okay. So from a muamalat perspective, so the socio-economic, socio-political, social justice system. Now I'm not talking about just chopping the hand business. I'm talking about facilitating entrepreneurship, trade, caravans. Caravan, not the caravan that you attach to the back of your car, like the means of production, guilds, all these kind of things. I think Pakistan's going to end up implementing those, the Medina template. Okay. Right? And the one person that really understands this very, very well is Sheikh Umar Vadilo. So he's there right now. And I want to create, this is making me quite tearful actually, I want to create an ecosystem of entrepreneurship. So if the government is saying we're going to support this, and then that's where we need to be.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
That's I'm lost for words, because it seems like
this is what
it's like what you were saying. It's kind of like what you're saying is just think big, and it looks like even though you are thinking quite big, you still have some practical steps that you're putting in place to get there.
Yeah,
and that's quite important.
But I mean, look, I don't know how this is going to pan out. I might find somebody says to me, "Come here tomorrow." I might go. I might think. I need to give it a year or two. I don't know. I'll keep doing istikhara at each stage.
But if it wasn't attached to a country or anything, what kind of vision do you want to set out? Because you mentioned it with raising entrepreneurs and stuff like that.
I really want to...
removing the barriers of country.
For me is, the Muslim world sees entrepreneurship, I mean, and the people that can't see this, I'll have to explain it, but I'm holding my hands out together and I'm putting my hands side to side. So on the one hand, you've got spirituality, and on the one hand, you've got business. That's how people see these two things as mutually exclusive, right? And I'm saying, do this. So the spirituality gives rise to the business. And the more your spirituality increases, the more your business increases, right? So you stack the business on top of spirituality, and they're not, the spirituality drives the business, they're not mutually exclusive.
But that's how Islam's expands.
It's very interesting because this is what we had an episode with Sheikh Abu Ubaid in one of our first couple of episodes, and he actually mentioned this thing, similar thing to what you're saying, that you have to view your money affairs, your dunya affairs, as something spiritual, as something that attaches to your iman, as something that is going to help build you spiritually and have a benefit for you in the afterlife. And that is what is going to help build your money, your finances, your business, and etc. Because exactly what you're saying, having that spirituality.
But don't be attached to the outcome, because it might, it still might not. But what the barakah that it brings you is...
There's a statement that I came across. I can't quite pinpoint who the person who quoted it. But it says that the wealth of this world, hold it in your hand, but don't place it in your heart.
Yes. That, I think it was Ali ibn Talib.
Could be, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've heard that before and I don't know.
It talks about zuhud.
Okay,
and this practice of zuhud is that it's not about having material things. So it's not about living in raggy clothes and in a one bed out on the street. That's not what zuhud means. You can have the palace and all those things, but don't have it in your heart.
Yeah. Like Dawood alayhi salam and Sulaiman.
Oh, you know, some of his stories are amazing, man.
Yeah, like he was. Allah describes him to be a person who gave shukr.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Yeah.
And he was constantly fasting every other day. You know, even though he had the palaces of
his stories are amazing.
It's amazing. So I think that it's a really important aspect that we're kind of like bringing out from the dirt.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a story of his that when he made before the men had to go into battle the next day, before, like when he took them training, he made them fast, go without food. He made them go without water. There's all this stuff that he had to do. And then when before they even were allowed to join the expedition, he said to them, whoever of you has bought a house recently, don't even bother turning up. Wow. Because he knew that the house will make you attached to your dunya.
Yeah.
So they were already written off. And then of those that turned up, I think they'd done the whole day of, like, you know, running, walking, all this kind of stuff, and they were really starved. They were really thirsty. So imagine doing a heat wave fast.
Yeah.
And near the end of the day, they came to a well, and he goes, "Those of you that go to the well and take the water, you can go home tomorrow. You're not coming with me. And those of you that don't take the water, you come with me." Because it was all about the spiritual stamina, right?
Yeah.
And I think he was left with like 30 people, and they had to fight 1,000 people the next day.
So just wanted to, like one of the last points I wanted to bring up before kind of we close off is that you're the author of this book. Obviously we have here $1 Billion Muslim. Can you just give us a quick understanding of who should be reading this book and why should they be reading this book?
I mean, I would definitely say the youth, because it will, as has been with you guys, it will definitely resonate with you the most. Between 16 and 25 is kind of mostly what it was written for. After that, 25 to 35. If you are either considering entrepreneurship, if you are already in entrepreneurship, then this book is going to definitely resonate with you. Definitely.
Okay. And we can, this is like ready available for people.
It's it's on, if you're in the West, it's on Amazon. So you can order it off Amazon in print. It's on, it's on audio on Audible, iTunes. It's also on Kindle app. So the Kindle app's available on your iPhone.
Did you do the audio for
Android.
it?
I did do the audio
No
for
way.
it. Yeah, I did. It's available on Audible and iTunes. The Kindle app is available on all
I've got it
iPhones
here.
and everything.
Got it, Kindle one.
Yeah. And I have my podcast as well, which is a lot of the things that we're talking about today. These things that weren't captured in the book.
Yeah.
I talked about them on my podcast.
Your
That's available
podcast,
on iTunes.
Billion Muslim as well.
Yeah, and if you just type $1 Billion Muslim in on iTunes or on SoundCloud, you'll find the podcast. There's already 50 episodes on there already.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
We've got a lot to catch up on.
Yeah, so you can just go through those, and I was doing them on Wednesday at 11 o'clock every week. I've done 50 episodes now.
Okay.
But since I've been doing this thing about going with the flow, I'm kind of I'm not ready for that to go back into it just yet. But my goal is 100 episodes.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So this is kind of in place of the podcast. This my podcast.
I mean, let's end on a very positive note for our listeners. And this kind of note I want to generate, I want to discuss is about how we can help create a vision for our future young people growing up, Muslims in the UK or around the world, to foster this sort of drive to be creative and not worry about financial constraints and not worry about the imprisonment of a 9 to 5, or that sort of worry of being enslaved in debt for the majority of their lives and not doing anything significant as a result. I mean,
you know, there's a quote that's coming to me from Malik ibn Dinar, right? And he said, "Start a business of worshipping Allah, and all kinds of profits will come to you." That was a quote of quotes for me. That really did it to me.
So what does that? What do you interpret from that?
I just thought. I don't know what I just thought. Like when you're in business, just be witnessing Allah in that business. And you might get profits materially, but you might get profits spiritually as well.
Right.
It's mushahada, basically. It's a concept in Islam where you witness Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything that you do.
Yeah. I think that's the most important thing, is just witness Him in everything that you do. But also be aware of what is it that He wants from you and have the highest opinion of Him. Because what He wants for you is not wage slavery. Yeah. That's what your mum and dad want for you. Yeah. Right? That's what the society wants for you. That's what this capitalist system wants for you. What Allah Ta'ala wants for you to is He created man free. He wants you to be free.
That's true. And what does it mean to be free?
It means that you only Allah owns you. Yeah. To be free. Only Allah, you only rely on and trust in Him, but only He tells you what to do. And He's your only sovereign. No other being is your sovereign. Mentally or physically.
Concept of being Hanif as well.
Yeah, I mean, you can be in physical chains, but you're still a free man. Yeah. I mean, if you've been watching this TV series Ertugrul now, he really shows that. That's where you really understand what it means.
One episode, yeah.
You have to watch it. I mean, if I was the head of state, I would make it fard. I really would.
I was going to say there was a quote, I don't know if it was Malik or one of the quotes of the Salaf, and it's such a striking quote for me because he says that if the kings knew the happiness that we felt, they would come and fight us for it. In the sense that the kings and despots of the world.
Oh, you mean the kings of the non-Muslims, basically?
No, just I'm not sure it was implying non-Muslims, just Muslims and everyone in general. The ones who have got power, they've got wealth, they've got everything. If they came to know the happiness that this scholar or these group of poor people had. Yes. That happiness, that contentment that they've found in doing something and perhaps not wielding the most profit, but in terms of the heart, yielding the highest profit.
I've seen CEOs that have multi-million. I've seen multiple businesses, multi-million-dollar businesses. I've met movie producers and things like that. No peace, no contentment, no peace. But I've seen people who've made a little bit of money, and I've seen in my own business when I've made a little bit of money, and I've been the happiest person that anybody's ever met. I've not made that much money, and I've just because of the amount of peace that I've had, and contentment that I've had.
Alhamdulillah. Well, I'll put Baraka in all of your business, your ideas, our ideas, our the ways that we are trying to make our ends meet and things like this, and for the viewers as well, inshallah. May Allah allow them to be able to empower themselves through this episode to be able to get to that stage where they are not making those mistakes that you mentioned, and then they're able to overcome that, inshallah. Is there anything you wanted to say before we end on that note?
No, that was a beautiful way to end it.
Alhamdulillah. So Jazakallah khair for the listeners viewing in. As Khuram mentioned, you can grab that book, $1 Billion Muslim, on Amazon and I think maybe other sort of websites as well. Yeah. And you can check out his podcast and everything. And don't forget to follow our social medias as well, Ibn Battuta's Boat. We've got the Instagram, the Facebook, the Twitter, we've got our website. Alhamdulillah, inshallah, we're going to be expanding the website and sort of introducing some written content on the website as well as these videos and audios. Alhamdulillah, episode 10 now, so we're looking to expand even further. So, Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.